What do you do when you have prayed 1,000 times and heaven seems completely silent? What do you do when you have done everything right, been honest, been faithful, worked hard, hurt nobody, and still life keeps handing you pain? What do you do when the people around you are prospering and you are standing still, wondering if God has simply forgotten your name? This is the story of a woman named Miriam Cole, and it will make you think twice before you ever give up again. Miriam Cole was 43 years old and invisible, not physically. She was a tall, full-figured woman with deep brown skin and warm amber eyes. But in the way that matters most, she had become invisible. To her job, to her community, to the world that had quietly moved on without her. She had spent 20 years working as a bookkeeper at a small textile company in Savannah, Georgia. 20 years of arriving early, leaving late, fixing other people's mistakes and never taking credit. 20 years of being the most reliable person in the building and the least promoted. Every year, she watched younger colleagues with less experience walk past her into offices with their names on the door. Every year, she told herself, next year, God is preparing something. Next year. The years passed. Nothing changed. Her husband, Daniel, had left 12 years ago. Not cruelly, not with anger, just quietly, the way a fire goes out when nobody tends to it. They had no children. Her mother had died of cancer 6 years back. Her closest friend, Joyce, had moved to Atlanta and called less and less frequently. Miriam lived alone in a small 2-bedroom house on Elm Street. She kept it spotless. She tended a small garden of roses and tomatoes out back. She went to church every Sunday, sat in the 4th row on the left, sang every hymn, and prayed every prayer. She gave from the little she had. She visited the sick. She was, by any measure, a good woman. And yet, there were nights, deep, long, silent nights, when she sat at her kitchen table with a cup of cold tea and asked the ceiling a question she was almost ashamed to speak out loud. God, are you still there? Do you still see me? Have you forgotten? The ceiling never answered, and the silence felt like the loneliest sound in the world. Then came the Tuesday that broke everything open. Miriam arrived at work to find a young man named Preston Blake sitting at her desk. 26 years old, fresh out of college, bright tie and brighter smile. The company had promoted him, over her, to senior accounts manager, the position she had been quietly, faithfully working toward for 11 years. Her boss, Mr. Hendricks, called her into his office. He spoke in the smooth, careful language of a man who had practiced this speech in a mirror. Words like restructuring and new direction and we value your loyalty. He slid a small envelope across the desk, a severance package. She had been let go. 20 years. And it ended in a 9-minute meeting. Miriam walked to her car in the parking lot. She sat behind the wheel. She did not cry immediately. She just sat there very still, staring at the steering wheel, while the world continued turning around her as if nothing had happened. Then the tears came. Big, silent, shaking tears. The kind that come from somewhere very deep, where you have stored hurt for a very long time. She cried for 30 minutes. Then she wiped her face and started the car and drove home. That evening, she sat in her garden among her roses, and she did something she had never allowed herself to do before. She spoke to God not politely, not with practiced Sunday morning words, but honestly, raw and shaking and real. I am tired, she said out loud to the sky and the roses and whoever was listening. I have been faithful, I have been patient, I have trusted you in the dark for years, and I am tired. If you see me, Lord, if you have not forgotten me, then I need you to show up, because I am running out of road. The garden was quiet. A single firefly blinked once in the dusk, and Miriam went inside and went to bed. She did not know, could not have known, that the very next morning, something was already moving. Something that had been set in motion long before she ever cried out, as if the answer had been traveling toward her for years and was now finally almost at her door. The next morning, Miriam made herself get up. She made herself shower, make her bed, and eat breakfast. She was not feeling hopeful. She was simply doing what she always did, putting one foot in front of the other, even when the road seemed to lead nowhere. She went to check her post box and found three things: a bill, a circular, and a thick cream-colored envelope with a return address she did not immediately recognize. She opened it at the kitchen table. It was from a law firm in Charleston. The letter informed her that a woman named Eleanor Grace Whitfield had passed away 3 weeks earlier, at the age of 91, and had named Miriam Cole as the sole beneficiary of her estate. Miriam read it twice, then a third time. Eleanor Grace Whitfield. She knew that name, but from so long ago, it felt like another lifetime. 18 years ago, Miriam had worked a second job on weekends as a home aide. One of her clients was an elderly white woman, sharp-minded, sharp-tongued, and profoundly alone. Eleanor Whitfield, a retired school teacher with no children, no living relatives, and a personality as prickly as a thorn bush. Most aides lasted 2 or 3 weeks with Eleanor before quitting. Miriam had stayed for 2 full years. She had cooked for her, read to her, argued with her about crossword puzzles, and sat quietly with her on rainy afternoons when the old woman didn't want to talk, just wanted someone near. When Eleanor's health improved enough that she no longer needed full-time help, Miriam had moved on. They exchanged Christmas cards for a few years. Then even that faded. Miriam had thought of her occasionally, hoped she was well, and then life had swallowed everything, the way it does. She had never expected anything. She had been kind because kindness was simply what she did. And now, 18 years later, that kindness had come back. Eleanor Grace Whitfield had left her everything: a house in Charleston, a savings account, investments quietly accumulated over a lifetime of careful living. The total value of the estate was $460,000. Miriam sat at her kitchen table for a very long time, the letter trembling slightly in her hands, the morning light falling through the window onto the old check tablecloth. Then she put her face in her hands, and she wept, not from sorrow and not from shock. She wept because she suddenly understood something that hit her like warm light breaking through a long, dark cloud. God had not been silent. God had been working. 18 years ago, when she showed up faithfully to care for a difficult old woman that nobody else would stay with, she had not known she was planting a seed. She had simply been doing what was right. And all this time, through the loneliness, through the promotions that passed her by, through the divorce and the grief and the silent nights, that seed had been quietly growing in soil she could not see. God had seen her on those mornings when nobody else did. He had seen her kindness when it was not convenient. He had seen her faithfulness when it earned her nothing visible. He had been writing her story on pages she was not allowed to read yet. And now, on the morning after the worst day of her life, the chapter had finally turned. Miriam did not go out and spend wildly. That was not who she was. She sat with the gift for a week. She prayed over it. She thought carefully about what Eleanor, a school teacher who had devoted her life to young minds, would want done with what she had built. Then Miriam Cole, the woman nobody had noticed for 20 years, started a small foundation. She named it the Eleanor Grace Foundation. Its purpose was simple: to provide bursaries and school supplies for children from poor families in Savannah who showed promise but had no means. In the first year, she helped 47 children. In the second year, over 100. The local newspaper ran a story, then a regional magazine, then a television station from Atlanta came to Savannah to film a segment. Miriam stood in front of a camera for the first time in her life, blinking in the lights, a little nervous, and told the truth. "I want people to know something," she said quietly. "There will be seasons in your life when you feel completely forgotten, when you are doing the right thing and getting nothing back, when the silence of heaven feels louder than any voice. But I am standing here today as a living witness that God sees every act of love you have ever performed. He does not waste a single one. He keeps record of things you have long forgotten about yourself. And he pays back, not always when you expect, not always how you expect, but he pays back. Always. The clip went across the internet. Hundreds of thousands of people watched it. Letters arrived from across the country, from strangers who said they had been ready to give up, and that her words had reached them in the dark like a hand reaching into a deep hole. Miriam answered every letter personally, because that was who she was. 2 years after the letter arrived, Miriam sat in her garden on a warm evening. The roses were blooming spectacularly, deep red and soft pink, heavy with scent. The tomatoes were fat and ripe on the vine. The sky above Savannah was the color of a tangerine. She was not rich in the way the world defines rich, but she was full in her spirit, full in her purpose, full in the quiet, unshakable knowledge that she was known, that she had always been known, by something far greater than any office title or bank balance or human approval. She thought about Eleanor, prickly, lonely, brilliant Eleanor, and smiled. She thought about those 2 years of Saturday mornings and crossword arguments and quiet rainy afternoons. She had never considered that work to be anything special. She had just shown up and been present and been kind. But God had been in the room the whole time, watching, taking note, saying nothing, just nodding slowly and writing it all down. If you are reading this today and you are in your own silent season, working and waiting and wondering if anyone sees, let Miriam Cole's life speak directly to your heart. Your faithfulness is not invisible. Your kindness is not lost. Your tears have been counted, every single one. The answer is already traveling toward you. God never forgets his own. Never.